technology management today is considered as the most strategic to retain a competitive advantage of a nation or even a company. Technology can be considered very simple terms. It is just as know-how, or it can also be considered as the manipulation of science for our human purposes. There are other definitions as well. The definition that I like most is, as a professional, how we really look at the technology as a component. If you consider technology, you can also consider technology as a product technology or even a process technology. A product technology is, if you consider a product, say for example like a mobile phone. The product technology is the technology that you need to create or design or manufacture the product. So therefore, product design information and the exact expertise that you need, those things are the product technology. But if you consider a process technology, it is a technology that you need to carry out the entire process. And that in fact scientifically can be considered as 4 embodied components. One is the technoware, and that is what we normally consider as technology, which is the equipment part of it. Then you have the humanware, and that is the expertise that you need, the human resources that you need to properly use the technoware. And then you have the augerware, that is if you consider any kind of a manufacturing setup, how you organize your entire manufacturing process to get the maximum advantage of your technoware and humanware. Finally, the information, or what we call infware, and that is to get the best use of your technoware, humanware and augerware. So basically 4 different components: technoware, humanware, augerware and infoware. So if you consider this complex structure, technology per se is an embodied system. And what we consider today is that you need to have a very good understanding of all these components and how these components are integrated like a jigsaw puzzle. And if you properly have that kind of an understanding, a competitive nation or a competitive firm will be able to properly use the technology for their advantage. And one thing that we need to realize is that if you consider this technology having one component like the technoware part will not really give a benefit. You need to make sure that this technoware part should be able to use by humanware, and you need to have a proper organization. You need to have all the information. So when we consider technology, therefore any organization should have a balanced development of all these 4 components. This technology, although we consider now as a very important aspect, it was not considered so some time ago. Why? Because if you consider the technology advancement today is very, very rapid. As an example, an author called Alvin Toffler, in his book Future Shock, he identified, if you consider last 50,000 years, and if you divide that into our lifetimes, taking an average lifetime of about 62 years, you can actually divide that into 800 lifetimes. And if you consider these 800 lifetimes, the first 650 lifetimes, the people lived in caves. And if you consider the last 70 lifetimes, you can consider that it was possible to communicate from one lifetime to another. If you consider last 6 lifetimes, the people ever seen a printed word. And if you consider the last 4, it was only possible to measure time precisely between those lifetimes. If you consider the past 2 lifetimes, it is the time that we saw the electric motor, and it is only the last lifetime that we saw enormous development of all the material developments. When you have your scientific discoveries and methodologies, it actually helps us to come out with technological breakthroughs. And when we have technological breakthroughs, it will certainly result in technological devices and know-how. And these technological devices and know-how will in fact advance technology science. It is just like a cyclic process. And when that happens, you see that there is a technological explosion. And that is why we see today that our technologies are very rapidly changing. how it affects competitiveness of an organization. Now, if you do not really have a very good idea about these technological advancements, you will see that immediately next year your technology becomes obsolete and you cannot compete, your price becomes higher, and therefore it is very important that you manage your technology, you take technology as a strategic tool to retain that competitive advantage. Technology is the ultimate battleground that will decide the competitiveness of the nation, that will decide which companies and which nations will win the wealth creation game. And all these things indicate the importance of technology management as a competitive organization or a competitive nation. If you do not manage these kind of technologies, obviously soon you will see that the organizations which are unheard of or which are ready to embrace these kind of technologies will within 1 or 2 days bypass you. You need to find out how these technologies should be managed. And these technologies can be managed in different ways. Now, developed nations will carry out their continuous research and development to come out with these kind of technologies so that they will have the cutting edge technology and they'll be market leaders. On the other hand, developing countries might not have the resources to invest on technologies like that. They will tend to buy technologies or transfer technologies from other countries. And when you want to buy your transfer technologies as developing countries, it is essential that we need to have a very good understanding of what kind of technologies that we need. Out of the components that I mentioned, technoware, workerware, humanware and infoware, and whether these technologies are part of the technologies you have, what components that you need to use, need to purchase, and what kind of businesses that you are going to do, whether you are going to produce, whether you are going to design, whether you are going to sell your product. Depending on, you need to have a very good understanding of what you really need. And if you do not have a good understanding, you will not be able to negotiate for a good technology transfer deals. What we are trying to do in our countries is to make sure that we produce our professionals as technology managers in order to use these kind of knowledge areas for their advantage to make our firms competitive and our countries competitive. So therefore, technology management is in fact a very vast subject. It includes the actual technology development as well, which is research and development and how to do that. Then it includes the technology transfer, then it includes the intellectual property, and then it includes the surveying and have your antennas open to the world to find out what new technologies are coming up, and which is called technology watch, and your strategic decisions that you want to take to make sure that you decide on the correct technology which is aligned with the business strategy of your organization. And all these things are very important. So if you consider technology management the exercise, and these are the areas that you need to have a very good understanding. And I think if you have a good understanding of this, and if you know how you align all these things, and I'm sure those kind of companies will be in the wealth creation game, and those countries will certainly rise more than the others and will pursue the economic development.